Alrighty, so in this installment, we're going to make our transfer macro a little bit more sophisticated. So there's a date, and I'm just going to run out a quick fill here through these dates. And we're going to put these dates along the top of this spreadsheet here. Since I was doing that, I'm going to buzz over here, and I'm going to do the same, Control V, in this cell. So each of my spreadsheets now has dates above it. And what I want to do now is I want to come in here. I'm going to take this cell and I'm going to put into it a date from my list. I'm going to say 10/6. Okay. And then what I want to do is in this cell, I'm going to have a special formula. I'm just going to say match. And what I want it to match is this date to this range. And so what this does, this match command returns the number 6 because if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns into the range that I gave it, I will find the match. So 10/6 was matched right here. Okay, that's all that the match command does. Having done that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change things. I'm going to go and remove this bit of code, and I am going to step over to the mission control page, and instead I'm going to use this range, right? Now when I hit return, I still get the 6, but it's actually reading from the mission control page, which allows me to come over here and do this. Delete. Okay, now bear with on this. What's going to happen is this number is going to come into play here in a minute, but not so much in the spreadsheet end of things, but rather when we start talking about how to move things to specific areas. And so, as usual, we go into our macro editing mode and have a look at what we see here. Okay, these are just numbers in my destination range and my source range. So why don't I go through and consider what would happen if I made these numbers a little more sophisticated. And you'll see where I'm going with this in just a second. Let's come up here and we're going to define a variable. And this variable we're going to define, we're going to call it O column, right? And so what this does, once again, it takes the sheet variable and it says get cell range by name. So it says I want to go in and get cell range by name. In this case, it's pointed at A1, but I'm going to point it at B1 instead. And what happens when this get arguments gets passed is that it now has everything about cell B1 in this variable. Well, now let's go down here and let's see. Our source is still going to be the same and our destination sheet is going to be the same. But over here in column, row, what if I, instead of saying 0, I say, let's go to O column, and of that entire variable from that cell, I want you to get the value from that variable. And then over here, I'm going to have you do the same thing. Oh, okay, so when I do these get values, what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to get a number out of this variable that helps me define left and right what column I'm in. Well, let's go back and see. Okay, it wants to be in column 6 because column 6 is where October 6th is played or held. Why don't I put the export right there? Click it. Come over here to mission control. Lo and behold, it's not quite in the right place, is it? That's interesting. Backspace this up again. Delete. So I don't know what just happened, but it wasn't quite where I wanted it. Let's come back to sheet 2. Okay, 10.6. Let's just type in a new one, 10/5. Return and hit export. Come back over here to mission control. And it looks like it's using the classic row number from the match command to move me not quite to the right spot. I should be one less. And that's that whole thing again where column A is 0, but my match command doesn't see it that way. It sees it as 5, right? So if I come over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's where it's supposed to be. So the match function isn't quite working right. See what I mean? But that's okay, because if I take this whole quantity and I subtract 1 from it, now it says 4. Well, let's hit export and see if that works. Son of a gun, now it's working. This is kind of cool. Just since we have a lot of confusion there, we'll delete that again, come back over and hit export. Okay, let's see if we can put something in 1010. Back over here. Boom. And sure enough, it winds up in the column 1010. So this works really well. Alrighty, well, what if I just carry this on out? And the reason I'm doing this is because it's actually the 14th today. There's the 14th. And so my final range value is at U. Let's come back over to sheet 2. And when I look at this range, it's A1, mission control, A1 to K1. Well, why don't I just make that U1, since my range just got extended. And then rather than have this say a date, I'm just going to say equals today, which is the 14th. Export. When I come over here, it looks like on the 14th those numbers got transferred. So this code now, because of what we've done in the spreadsheet, is sensitive to taking information in on the exact and putting it in the exact place where your day is located. And if you think about when we're trying to take snapshots in time of the wind information, we want to store them in very specific columns. This subroutine allows you to do that. Thanks for watching, and good luck on the next video. It's quite long.